All right, today we are going on a forensic journey. We're going to dive into the digital shadows of a modern-day heist, following the breadcrumbs that attackers leave behind in VMware ESXi servers. We're going to piece together the entire story of a compromise, step by step, by looking at the one place they can't help but leave tracks, the system logs. And our journey starts with understanding just how incredibly high the stakes are. $100 million. Now, that number isn't just some abstract risk or a theoretical what if. It is the very real price tag of a single successful attack on this exact type of critical infrastructure. It's a figure that should make anyone sit up and pay attention. And for one very famous company, this number became a very painful reality. That's right, in 2023, MGM Resorts got hit with a massive breach when attackers got into their ESXi environment. In just a few days, over 100 of their hypervisors were encrypted, which basically ground their entire operations to a halt and ended up costing them a staggering $100 million. So you see, this isn't just about losing data, it's about crippling an entire organization. So why? Why are attackers so drawn to ESXi? Well, this quote from the Splunk threat research team really hits the nail on the head. Think about an ESXi server like it's a digital treasure chest, right? It holds the keys to dozens, sometimes hundreds of virtual machines. The problem is, it's a treasure chest with a really faulty alarm system. Because it's seen as just stable infrastructure, it's often under-monitored, which lets attackers basically operate in the dark. And that is what makes our little forensic journey into the logs so absolutely critical. Every heist, and I mean every single one, begins with a plan. In the digital world, we call that reconnaissance. Before an attacker makes any big move, they need to understand the layout of the system. What's it running, what's it connected to, and most importantly, where are the valuables? So, if you're the attacker, this is like you're trying to get the blueprints to the vault. You're asking questions like, okay, what version is this system running? Are there any known bugs I can exploit? Which of these virtual machines are the crown jewels? And how is the network laid out? Every single answer is another piece of the puzzle, helping them build a map straight to their prize. And this right here, this is our first forensic clue. The attacker uses a standard command line tool. It's called ESXi. Just think of it as a universal key for managing the ESXi host to get system and network info. But even this initial looking around isn't invisible. Nope. Every command they run gets recorded right there in the shell log, time-stamped, and tied directly to them. The breadcrumb trail has officially begun. Okay, so once the attacker has the lay of the land, what's next? Their next move is to get the keys to the kingdom. This whole phase is about escalating their access, going from being just an outside observer to an inside player with some real power. Their objectives here are crystal clear: get in, stay in, and get powerful. This usually kicks off with some stolen credentials, but they get to work fast creating their own accounts. And the ultimate prize? Getting those new accounts escalated to the all-powerful administrator role, which gives them complete and total control. And here we go. This is our first huge, flashing red flag, and we find it in the host's log, which is basically the host's main activity journal. This log captures every time someone logs in, and seeing the root user, the system's superadmin, logging in from some random remote IP address, that is highly, highly suspicious. It's a classic sign of a compromised account. And this is the moment. This is when the attacker forges their own master key. Right here, plain as day in the shell log, we see the exact command they used to give a user, in this case SVC user, the administrator role. That's not just a clue. That's an undeniable fingerprint. A crystal clear record of privilege escalation that gives the attacker a backdoor with the highest possible level of access. So now that they have the admin keys, the attacker isn't just a visitor anymore. Oh no, they're redecorating. This phase is all about changing the system to lock in their control, weaken its defenses, and make absolutely sure they can get back in whenever they want. So to do this, they'll create backdoors, often by turning on remote services like SSH, which is a secure shell that gives them direct command line access. That's something that should normally be turned off for security. They'll also actively work to lower the system's overall security posture just to make all their malicious activities that much easier to pull off. Now, this is a really subtle but incredibly powerful technique, and it's captured in the SX update log, which, tracks software installs and updates. The log shows a command to change the software acceptance level. By knocking it down to community supported, the attacker is basically turning off the system's built-in safety check. They're telling it to be way less picky about the software it's willing to install. And this is the first step to installing their own malicious tools. So, what in the world is a VIB? Well, just think of it as a software package for ESXi. Normally, the system only accepts packages from trusted, verified sources. Lowering the acceptance level is like firing the security guard at the loading dock and telling the new guy to just let any old package through, no questions asked. It swings the door wide open for installing malware. So let's just put all the pieces together. The path to getting persistence is a pretty clear 3-step process. First, they enable SSH, creating their own private encrypted backdoor they can use anytime. Second, they disable the host's firewall, just tearing down the walls that would normally block them. And the result? They have gone from being a temporary guest to the permanent, unrestricted owner of the castle. Okay, with full control and the defenses weakened, the attacker is finally ready for the main event. This is the whole reason they broke in the first place. It's the culmination of all their work up to this point. You know, the end goal can be different. Sometimes it's just pure destruction, shutting down critical virtual machines to cause as much chaos as possible. But more often than not, it's about the data. They'll disable security features to make the data easier to steal, and then they'll start the heist itself, copying and stealing entire virtual servers. We're talking a massive data grab. And once again, the shell log tells the story. Secure Boot is a really critical security feature. It makes sure the system only loads trusted, signed software when it starts up. And what do we see here? The attacker explicitly disabling it. That's like leaving the front door of the bank unlocked overnight. It just completely compromises the hypervisor's integrity and makes it way easier for them to run their malicious code. This right here is the smoking gun. In the host log, we see a file download event. Now, we're not talking about a document or a spreadsheet. This log entry means that an entire virtual machine disk, a whole server, is being copied and stolen. It's the digital equivalent of watching the thieves load the entire vault onto a truck, and it's all captured in this one damning line of text. After the heist is over, there's just one last thing to do: clean up the crime scene. The attacker's final phase is all about trying to remove the indicators, trying to erase the very breadcrumbs that we've been following this whole time. Their goal is pretty simple: make a forensic investigation as difficult as humanly possible. They'll try to shut down the audit logging service, redirect logs to a dead end, or even change the system's clock to completely throw off the timeline of events and confuse anyone who comes looking later. But here's the irony: even their attempts to hide leave traces. Disabling audit logs with the audit records command? Yep, that's logged in the shell log. Changing the syslog server so logs go nowhere? Also in the shell log. And trying to mess with the system clock to confuse the timeline? That actually creates a very loud, high-priority alert in the VM key running log. The irony is, even their attempts to hide leave their own tracks. They just can't become completely invisible. And that really brings us to the most crucial takeaway from this whole journey. Attackers are not ghosts. As we've seen, every single action they take, from their first curious peek to their very last attempt to cover their tracks, leaves a digital fingerprint. The logs are always their undoing. The evidence is there. It's all recorded, moment by moment. The story of an attack is written plain as day for anyone who knows how to read it. Which leaves us with just one final critical question. Your logs are talking. Are you listening?